everyone, this is Mrs. Hamilton and we're here with another art lesson. Today we are going to be creating giant Pacific octopus. And they are also called a giant Pacific red octopus because of their color. They are this very deep red. I'm going to review a little bit over materials, what we're going to need today. I am using a 9 by 12 piece of paper. You can use something smaller or bigger, your choice. I'm actually going to be drawing with oil pastels today. And then I'm going to finish up the background with some watercolor. You are not limited to these materials. You can use other materials instead if you like. You can use crayon or a color pencil or even markers. It really is your choice. But I am going to be doing this lesson based on these materials here. And you can just follow along. Also, I am not going to use a pencil because I'm going to draw directly with my oil pastels. If you do not feel confident about that, you're more than welcome to start with a pencil, but I recommend going with the oil pastel or crayon first. You can even do this with marker. All right, so I'm going to put my watercolor aside because, like I said, it's going to be one of the last things I use, and I'm going to push over my paper and oil pastels. Now, a couple things down in the details, I'm going to put a video that is just like a video, shows you someone at an aquarium who's interacting with their giant Pacific octopus that they have, and just and kind of tells you a few facts about it. I am also going to link up a website from National Geographic that has just some facts about the Pacific giant or giant Pacific octopus. So if you want to go look that up as well, but I am going to be talking about it a little bit as we draw. So, but I always recommend going and seeing those other sources and just especially taking a look at a few of the pictures. All right, so a couple things we're going to need to do. First thing, with oil pastels, I'm going to start by drawing the octopus, but I'm going to pull out a red to draw with most of the octopus, and then I'm going to pull out a white, and I'm going to pull out a black because I'm going to use these for for the eye detail. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do the head of the octopus, which is very large. We're going to use a really large circle. You want to go bigger than your fist. And because also this is a giant octopus, we want to make sure that it feels big. So we're going to start at the top and we're going to do a nice big circle. Now, if you are drawing with the oil pastel, I'm using my red first, and you make a little mess up, like for instance, I could make this a little bigger. I can just dress it up by just fixing the lines a little bit, because what we're going to be doing is we are going to be filling this in red and it's all going to blend in. All right. Before we do filling in though, I want to make sure I put in the eyes. Now the eyes of the octopus are actually lower. I know some of you are going to be very tempted to put it right here in the middle like we do a face, like a human face, but you remember this is not a human. So we want to put the eyes low. Actually, this would be like the top of the head. And our eyes are low because our mouth is actually hidden inside of the tentacles. So I'm going to take my white first, and I'm going to draw two small circles low on my octopus and to the left and right. You might have a little bit of a hard time seeing it, but I'll outline it as well in just a moment. And then I'm going to take my black and give it some pupils just to make it a little more friendly. And then I'm going to take my red and I'm just going to go around it just so you can kind of see where the eyes are actually sitting. There we go. And I am actually going to make these a little bigger. Okay. Then I'm going to take my red again and I'm going to start filling. Now, a few things I learned about the giant Pacific octopus is that it is the largest breed of octopus of all the different species. It also changes color when it wants to blend in, kind of like a chameleon sometimes. So like, for instance, if there is a lot of rocks on the ground and it feels like there's a predator of some sort, it might turn into sort of that brown color where the rocks in the ground might be, to blend in. It is considered the smartest breed of octopus. Actually, it can, if there's anybody who's taking care of them or they interact with humans on a regular basis, they can recognize those humans. So they'll actually know if a human that has been like feeding it, maybe at an aquarium, they know to be friendly. They know what to expect. They know that food's on the way. Also, they've been known to open up jars and go into mazes. They've been doing some testing on how intelligent these animals are. And they find that they are able to get into, also, even though they're giant, they're able to squeeze because they have no bones, no hard bones. They can squeeze into really small, tiny spaces. So they have to be, anybody who has an octopus in their aquarium has to be really careful because it can get in and out of small spaces real easily. All right, after you are done filling in the top part, the head, we're gonna start with some tentacles. We're gonna put some tentacles on. Can anybody tell me how many tentacles the octopus has? If you said 8, you are correct. Now, its name, octopus, actually tells us or gives us a hint of how many tentacles it actually has. Octo actually means 8. So an octagon has 8 sides. So an octopus has 8 tentacles. All right, we're gonna do the tentacles. Now the tentacles, we're gonna come from the bottom and we're going to come out. And we need to make sure we have 8 of them. I'm going to start further out, maybe right here and here with my first set of tentacles, just so I have lots of space in between. And because it's out, the outer tentacles, it's going to be the closest to the octopus. I'm going to start with I'm going to use a swirly line. I'm really going to swirl these tentacles. So I'm going to just use a line and I'm going to really curve and maybe swirl it at the end. And then I'm gonna thicken it up. I don't want these to be super skinny. I want them to be a little thicker. But as it gets to the edge, I'm gonna keep it a little thinner. I'm gonna come to the end. So it's thicker towards the body, a little thinner towards the tip of the tentacle. So there's 1, 2, I'm gonna really swirl it here, and then thicken it. Can always go back and add more thickness if I need to. All right, so I've got 2, 3, 4. You could even do a little overlapping where one goes over the other one a little bit. 5. Swirl this one a little bit. 5, and thicken it up. 6. I think I'm gonna overlap that one. 7. And then 8. Whoa. Always think of Sesame Street when I'm counting. And I'm gonna curl that just a little bit. Clean this up a little bit. Watch out when you're touching. You want to make sure, I'm being real careful not to touch the red oil pastel because I can real easily get it on my fingers and start putting fingerprints all over. So you want to be kind of careful. So I'm being real careful when I grab or touch or hold down my drawing. All right, get some of the little pieces off. Looking good. All right, so I'm gonna put these away. I'm done with most of my octopus. I have one more thing to add. I'm gonna grab the white And I'm going to make little circles. And the white pastel, the reason why I like using pastels is because sometimes you can layer and really see the pastel coming through. I'm gonna add some white. It's not as strong as I'd like it to be. I usually like to do this project with paint, but I wanna make sure all of you have something to use. Or you can just leave it. You don't necessarily have to put these white, but these represent the suction cups, because each one of these tentacles has suction cups going all the way to the tip, from closest to the head to the tip. And that's why they are so great with grabbing on and opening things. And this is how they sort of touch and feel. Helps them move around a little bit. I don't know if you can really see those white, but I'm going to try and put a little, as much as I can. It's okay if you can't really see it too much. All right, before we get painting, the last thing I want to do is to add some details. So for instance, some details that I could add down at the bottom is maybe some seaweed. Do some seaweed. I can even have it over up if I'm using oil pastel, or if you're using oil pastel, you can have it sort of overlap a little bit. And actually, I am also going to add a little bit of brown at the bottom for the gravel or sand. It can be dark or light. I might use this golden color for it, because it's usually like a golden brown, just to give it a little ground, maybe just a little peak of horizon line. So if I have this, I'm not drawing over my octopus, I'm going behind it and skipping it, you'll see a little bit of ground. If it's close to the ground, moving around, and where the seaweed can come from. And then I'm going to grab some fun bright colors, because I'm going to be using like a blue, a darker blue over this. So I'm going to use maybe some brighter colors to add some fish in behind him, maybe floating around. Not very safe, seeing how octopus love to eat little tiny fish. And the mouth is underneath, in between all the tentacles down here. But, you know, sometimes fish don't really pay attention to what they're doing. So I'm going to put a couple fish. Maybe a pink one. Oh, why not? Pink. Do a little oval. And then two diagonal ones. Close the triangle and color it in just real carefully. And maybe I can add a couple bubbles. I'm going to use my white, which will be hard to see right now, but when I paint, it'll be like magic and it'll start showing up. Maybe a little bubble. Just a couple little bubbles, just to make it a little fun. If you want to add a little more, you can. You can put a little starfish at the bottom if you want to, or anything you could think of that is you would see under the ocean or in the ocean. All right, so next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take that and put it out of the way. We're going to fill in. I'm bringing my watercolors over, a cup of water and paintbrush. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to be using the darker blue, or the regular blue if you only have the primaries and secondary colors. And I'm going to add lots of water and really wake up the color. I want this to be very watery. If it is thick and sticky, your watercolor, it is not, especially for these little bubbles, really not going to show well. So you want to make sure it's very watery. So I'm adding lots of water. I'm gently swishing. Usually the more you swish, the more paint mixes into the water. And then I'm going to start painting. Now if I go, oh, look at that, my bubbles are showing. Very cool. Now the thing about this, the reason why I said this paint has to be real watery is I'm painting next to the oil pastel, and if you notice, it's not covering it. It is, the oil pastel really is showing up real nice with this watercolor. This is why I love using watercolor and oil pastels together because it doesn't mix, so I won't lose my drawing. And also it actually, the dark blue makes the color of my red octopus and bubbles and other details really pop out next to it. So I really love the mixture of these two. Now, if you used crayon, this will work with crayon as well. Crayon and watercolor do not mix. They also tend to come through. But you want to make sure your watercolor is nice and thin and very watery. If it's really thick and sticky, like that is not so good. Okay, it's very thick. So I'm gonna, because it's kind of wet, sticky paint, because I used it not that long ago. So I'm gonna add some clean water to it, and it will water down that stickiness. So if you get a little sticky, like too much stickiness, or it's too thick on your brush and you're like, oh no, it's real thick, just take some clean water, like I said, clean water, and just add it directly to the paint, even if it's on the paper. It will soften up that paint real nice, and you'll be able to see all your details. So you can see if it gets thick, it does start to cover a little bit. So you want to make sure, see it really, ooh, that really stands out real nice. Really love how this is turning out. And the blue watercolor feels very watery to me, like it is it's the ocean water. The way it moves, ooh, that yellow really pops. Love the yellow. Almost done. A little bit there. And it kind of got dark right in here, so I'm just gonna add some water to it to even the color out just a little bit. See? It's a little bit dark. All right. I think I am all done. Looking good. This is such a fun little octopus. Well, I shouldn't call it little. It's a giant red Pacific octopus. So it's not so little, but it is very cute. All right, guys, I hope you really enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Keep creating, okay? Bye.